Good morning. Welcome to Dialogue with a Difference. Convergence of technologies that will shape the future. All of us are here for this conversation. Well, immersive tech. Technology that wows our senses, grabs our attention. It makes technology and the interaction with it an absolute delight. Augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, and experiences based on these technologies. Artificial intelligence interprets information, interprets data, and takes quick decisions, like our chatbots and virtual assistants, Siri, Cortana, Alexa. Machine learning forms associations and saves in memory for instant recall. Image recognition, facial recognition, emotion detection, these are examples of machine learning. These three technologies converge and emulate the workflow of our minds. The workflow of our minds that is consistently about visualization, association, and recall. The workflow of how we live, learn, and evolve throughout our lifetimes. Growing up, we've learned to distinguish between analog and digital. Today, there's a complete convergence. We only talk about digital transformation. We talk about digitization in entirety. These three technologies, immersive tech, which is AR and MR and the like, artificial intelligence, and machine learning have ultimately made complete digitization possible today. Well, welcome to Dialogue with a Difference. We are here to discuss about the convergence of these technologies. I'm Vishal Reddy, CEO of Awesome. We have Arnav Ghosh, CEO India Blipar, Gautam Tiwari, CEO of Smart Physics, and Clive Hickman from the Manufacturing Technology UK. Great. We also have Jay Lakhani from Visualytics AI, and we have Costas from Nesta. Good morning, everyone. We also have all of you here. The first part of this was showing the audience demographics. You understand you've signed up on the page. What you need to know is the audience is as diverse as it gets from various business areas and industries. And that's a good prelude to the first topic of our conversation, which is discussing how would you approach immersive technology by a specific business area or by a specific industry. Well, on the discovery of these technologies, most of us had to find a language of how to communicate it to the market, how to penetrate the market, how to actuate our future and deliver value, how to convert this vision into a language that everyone understands. We believe the framework of business area and industry is the ideal framework to achieve this. Well, the problem statement. Technology has to solve a problem, and the problem belongs to a specific business area or an industry. You attach the product which carries the core technology to the problem and multiply it with the narrative to apply to a specific industry. That is the framework that most of us have approached to take our products to the market and to deliver value in this market. May I invite our first guest, who's already on the dais, Arnav Ghosh, to take us through his first story. Arnav, why don't we have a seat there? Conversation. Yes. Not what we expected. Arnav, so Blipar, India, yeah? One of the most highly valued AR company in the world, probably one of the first billion-dollar company, mixed reality-based company in the world. And you've been a pioneer in actuating mixed reality, augmented reality primarily, especially for the consumers apart from businesses.
Correct.
Yeah, how's been your journey? How was the beginning?
The beginning was, I think, thank you for having me here, Vishal. And it's like an esteemed panel. Very interesting how Blipper was founded in 2011 in London. I think two of the founders were sitting in a pub, right? and they were
Classic.
they were pretty much figuring out, and they saw a 20-pound note, right? And they were figuring out how if the queen comes out from the note and speaks to them, right? And they figured out what would happen and how do you make it happen, right?
True.
So they went back um, and they started figuring out what's the best way to get the queen alive out of the note, um, and that's how the entire thought process of Blipper started, right? Um, so the concept of Blipper was that Blipper is partly blip, is when you're blipping something, and AR is obviously augmented reality. Um, and I think when we started Blipper in 2011, um, there were it was extremely nascent, and it was as nascent as when even social media was very nascent in 2011. And I think the idea of doing Blipper was of bridging as what Vishal said, was bridging the digital and the physical world, and trying to create conversations which is contextual, both for consumers as well as for businesses, and something creating a technology which was as ubiquitous as using your phone, technology which is driven by your camera, and having the same capability and cognition as using your vision. So if you really replicate and put everything together, that was how that's how that's how we started Blipper in 2011. And I think we had kind of, as we moved along the journey, we started creating great conversations for brands. We started focusing a lot on brand conversations, consumer marketing conversations globally. And as we started moving the journey, we figured out that there was this huge opportunity that exists for technology to understand the physical world around us, and that's how we started looking at how do we use and combine augmented reality with artificial intelligence, primarily computer vision, to look at and create something called visual discovery. So what if, and we had kind of looked at jargons flying around in the digital world and the marketing world of the fact that people start talking about IoTs of the world. What if machines start talking back to you? So we started focusing on conversations where how do you use your camera instead of embedding a chip in every physical object around us. So what if you wanted to know, what if you wanted the chair to talk back to you? So you can't put a chip on the chair and make it smart. It's an extremely expensive process. So what if you empower your camera which you carry with you, right, and empower the camera in a way when you point the camera at the chair and you start interacting with the chair. So we started creating conversations between the digital and the physical world by embedding AR and AI. And the way the entire conversation is moved today in terms of visual discovery and visual search, and the entire idea of separating AI and AR as a separate entity today. I mean, when people talk about AR, people kind of don't relate it with AI. But end of the day, you cannot scale AR if you don't allow computers to understand the physical world around us. And for that to happen, I think there are two things that is very necessary. You need to ensure that computers today understand the way the human neural brain understands the vision and the way you look at cognition around us in terms of as I said, if somebody wants to have a cup of coffee, you need to identify what coffee it is, right? So we wanted to kind of create a technology and a platform which kind of enmeshed both together and create an experience both for consumers as well as for enterprises. So that's how we pivoted from a pure play AR platform to a visual discovery engine. And largely, I think the conversation has, again, we have had various experiences that we have built natively for large brands, for large enterprises, for large businesses. There are a lot of large, valuable tech companies today who have invested in AR. You talk about Google, you talk about Facebook, you talk about Amazon. They're all investing in their own core AR tech. But largely, if you see in terms of what's going to drive the future, Google has started doing something called Lenses, if you know. Lenses is all about visual discovery. But what they have in a platter is they control the entire value chain. is something like they have got the handsets, they have got the software, and they have got AI and AR play, which they're saying, hey, if you're using the latest Pixel, right, and if you've seen a lot of advertising around Pixels today, it's about you point it, and they have kind of gotten to a level where it's kind of creating a conversation where if you're pointing to a barcode, it tells you a telephone number, right? If you're pointing to a Wi-Fi ID, it is going to immediately connect to your Wi-Fi. It's all about AR, using AI to create that conversation.
Just a thought, Arnav. So this is like your personal interpreter.
Correct.
Right? It's like your Iron Man suit.
Right.
It's a perfect example from a layperson. Yeah.
Right.
It's interpreting what you're seeing. It's analyzing it for you. It's taking a decision, and again you can memorize and recall.
Correct.
It's a perfect world. So machines can finally think like us.
Right.
They can think for us. I think that's less scary than like us. Most people go into the doomsday, judgment day situation where machines can annihilate us.
Right.
But I just think that's bad code, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we often call it singularity, and you have a lot of movies which talks about Armageddon and blah blah blah. But I think AI, if you flip it, it's actually IA. It's about intelligent assistant, right? How do you allow AI to build efficiencies in human systems and allow humans to create informed decisions? And I think, and it's not about what Blipper is doing. And I think if you look at the large conversation that is happening, the world is actually moving from a different level of computing. And I think though we have been focused on AR, but I think largely what we have seen globally, I think there has not been a great path-breaking case study that has happened on AR. It's still at a stage in the funnel where people are saying, hey, are you putting immersive tech or mixed reality still as part of a small innovation budget? It's still a part of conversation. People will not have budgets. People will say, hey, if the point is that businesses like us to succeed, right, it needs to create a two-way process where you need to understand how immersive tech is going to drive value for any business. For that, you need to understand that end of the day, there are a lot of effort that has been made to create a great global platform. But the platform can only succeed if you understand what the platform can do for your business, and there's a larger value that you need to embed behind the platform that is going to create value. So I think the
communication is the key, right?
Value creation needs a two-way respect.
I agree.
Yeah.
Which is basically the way we communicate.
Correct.
Arnav, yes, we're trying to impress. The language that we use, it's technology, I remember the first time went to the market, hit on every door that we could see and show this feature. They're like, wow, most people try it because it's just wow, that extra cash. A lot of them tried it because you call them a million times.
Correct.
But, for me at least, it took time, a few months to understand how to communicate this value.
Correct.
Yeah, and then when you tell them the benefits and the value and how it fits into your business process, there you go. Yeah, and then you fix the price to it.
Yeah. So I think we're still there's still been a struggle with the price, right? I mean, in the business. I think largely
that's why you've raised so much money that you don't
but largely
need to bother about the price.
But I think largely we are in good times. I think with improved bandwidth, with improved understanding of what content can do, with improved understanding of what immersive tech is doing, and there is a larger interest in the business play today, right? I think we are in good times. Yeah.
Absolutely. I heard a figure that the immersive tech industry is growing at 80% year on year. That's 3 to 4 times larger than any other industry, today. And seeing the progression, if this stands, for the foreseeable future, which it will, I think all of us can meet all our life's dreams by being in the industry or just associate with this industry. What do you think?
I think again, immersive tech has got multiple silos into it, right?
Certainly.
I mean, the point is, in the sense that I think there has to be a larger consolidation that's going to happen in the next couple of years. Maybe the kind of businesses we do, you can't compete with Google, right? You can't compete with Facebook. You can't compete with an Amazon, right? They've got enough scale, and if you're doing well, they'll come back and buy you out, right? So I think there is a larger consolidation that's going to happen. But the entire conversation is about, I think, underlying everything else, there is a lot of skill level understanding that needs to happen for AR, right? So what is AR, what is MR, what is VR, right? Unfortunately, in a market like us today, right, we have seen a lot of hyperbole around media and entertainment saying that, hey, you go to any studio in Bombay or in Delhi, right? They say immersive tech is all about creating great gaming experience. That's not true, right? A lot of people have not focused on how can immersive tech can work in their funnel, in the business funnel, right? Will it work in discovery? Will it work in intent? Will it work in purchase?
That's
right. I think that's a very important understanding, and I think consumer marketing, real estate, education, healthcare, whole host of conversation is happening. But I think largely,
Also the business areas, right? Sales, marketing,
absolutely.
HR,
Yeah.
product enhancement, customer service, yeah, their application.
But I think largely there has to be, as I said, then the reason we call it mixed reality and XR today, right?
Yeah, I like
you
that
will
new term.
you will hear new terms as you go forward. But I think largely what's happening is in the next couple of years, though the valuation for the immersive tech business is upwards of 20 billion today, right? With a mix of AR, VR, MR. But I think largely, if you really look at what's going to drive that conversation, I think AR is going to drive that conversation because it's easier to scale, because it's on your phone, but I think there has been also a conversation saying that we are not going to use your phones and we are going to push away towards glasses, right? When it comes to glasses, then field of sight, then we have not been able to optimize the form factor for glasses yet, right?
I understand. And like here, we already connected through voice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Next year, the same event, I'm sure we'll have glasses.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to look at your phones anymore and connect with us, yeah? Digital information around us.
Exactly. So I think it's all about the tipping point as how do you put everything together, and trying to find that one value for businesses to come and say, hey, and also the fact that content is a great play, right?
Absolutely.
How to make, so you are buying a HTC Vive and you're buying a Magic Leap, right? But do you need to get into multiple streams of content, right, to experience a different handset?
Content is only as much as the medium.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you need to make the content interoperable as much as you need to make gadgets and the form factor get to a point where it's easily wearable. And I think the scale is very important. So if you look at sitting here today, AR is going to drive scale, VR is going to drive traction, and mixed reality is going to drive probably more enterprise-like valuation. And I think marketing and advertising, at the end of the day, it's about understanding how do you shift consumer experiences from. We have already been creating great experiences in advertising and marketing, right? It's how about making it more immersive. And immersive is not about understanding that immersive can only work through a device, but immersive can be something that how can you start creating ideas independent of a device. And I think the idea that I have seen today is there's this whole host of skill level understanding that needs to come in when AR, VR needs to come in.
True. Finding right skill
is very challenging.
In fact, I believe the India-UK partnership, at least for us, has been a source of finding skill faster. Sorry about my voice.
No, that's okay.
Gautam. Hi Gautam. So you run Smart Physics, yeah, and you've convinced a large VC fund to invest in your vision of providing solutions to real estate. Could you tell us more?
Yeah, so we started Smart X back in 2015, and when we started out, and this was a conversation that all of us were having prior to this session, right? That first couple of years was really about understanding where we can take the technology. Me and the other co-founder, we were both architects, and we were absolutely clear that what the pain point that the profession has faced since years put together has been around the state of visualization. And I personally believe that immersive technology had its place under the sun in the profession of architecture, engineering, and construction. Simply because the way, if any one of you have ever dealt with architects, the way architects come and sell their designs, they try to kind of, as architects, we are trained to imagine what the space would eventually look like. But as our customers, it's very tough as our clients, it's very tough for all of you out there to really understand what we're talking about, I spent, both of us, in fact, both the co-founders, we spent around 40 plus years in the profession facing the pain points that we are trying to solve. So, the whole purpose...
It comes from a deep industry experience.
Absolutely does.
Of architecture.
Absolutely does. And, when we started out, we had everybody coming out and saying that, hey, we are an advertising firm. Can you create a solution for us? We are a healthcare group. Can you create a solution for us? But and there was money being put on the table in terms of, here's the money, create a solution for us. But we maintained our focus, and we were absolutely sure that, look, we are tackling the problems that the architecture, engineering, and construction industry has faced for forever, and we will solve that problem using immersive technology. And we are turned out to be an absolutely perfect use case, because the way we kind of explain our designs to our clients has been through largely 2D plans and static pictures, which a non-technical mind, a non-untrained mind finds it very, very difficult to understand. And as a result, what really happens is, at the end of the day, when the project really manifests itself into a physical built form, starts the big struggle, where people who are actually spending the money on that particular project come back to you and tell you that this is not looking like what we had actually started out with,
Yeah.
And I was part
of
of
the biggest investment of most people's personal lives.
top
Real
dollar.
estate.
People spend the top
Yeah.
dollar getting their facilities put together. I was a workplace architect. I was a part of one of the largest design and build firms in Asia Pacific region. And despite all the resources that were available to us, we had that struggle at the end of every project, 99% of the projects at least, So we thought, we did not have as interesting an ideating session as Arnav did. So we were having very, very serious conversations around how we can change the
No
state of
bars.
design technology. No bars at all. Absolutely none. So we were in very, very uptight boardroom conversations. And so we decided that let's look at new technologies and what exactly was happening. And this was way back in 2014. And immersive technology was obviously being spoken about at that point in time. So we started with early proof of concepts. We started meeting friends in the fraternity, started showing them solutions around, it was still the DK2 days in terms of Oculus Rift back then. So we kind of showed them a highly immersive VR solution. We created solutions on the mobile. We created solution for the web. And interestingly, every person that we went out and showed these early POCs to said that, guys, this is going to change the way we've been working. This is certainly something that we've been waiting for many, many years. Now, how do we kind of start working together immediately?
Okay. So you knew the problem, you had the solution, so it was quite well researched and straightforward to you.
It was
Yeah.
straightforward till at least this point in time. Yes, it was.
And then the business model is where...
I'll tell you, the challenge really was because it was still, we were heading towards a services-oriented approach. And that really was the challenge, because we were also being told that we will not be able to scale this business up.
And that industry is not used to services-based approach.
And that industry, from a visualization-based perspective, is absolutely not used to that particular approach. So to just kind of conclude the point I was making initially, we got the chance and the opportunity to monetize even the proof of concepts. So some validation started happening there. But also, every client that we / customer that we worked with kept coming back to us in our first 2 years saying that, guys, you've got to understand there is a product opportunity here. Why do you not build something which kind of reduces the touch points that we have with you guys? So we used to create a solution. We used to go back into the studio, take a few $1,000 and a few weeks, and kind of come back with a solution. And that was not helping us scale up the business. Well, we did reasonably well, let me be absolutely honest, but at least the idea and the validation happened fairly early during this time,
Is that what transformed into Trezi?
That did, absolutely right. So this 2-year journey also brought about, from a customer-based perspective, the need for a product. But we, both the co-founders were largely, they were architects, they were services thinkers. We could have not built the product on our own. So we created a product thinking group internally, and that product worked for the last 12 months, has worked for the past 12 months, put the product out there, very focused, customer discovery-oriented approach to product development. Steve Blank became our kind of mentor in a way. We read Steve Blank's 4 Steps to Epiphany and kind of followed the customer discovery process to the T. And
by the book.
Well, totally by the book. Totally by the book, because that was the challenge that we faced as the founders. We did not understand product development at all. Fortunately, we had very, very strong product group put together. July this year, Trezi was launched to immediate traction. So before we even formally launched the product, we had buyers agreeing to buy the product on the day of the launch. And till date, we've not had a big time formal launch yet. We're selling, we are growing, we're adding buyers every month. And I think we have hit a point where we can now start building our plans around our customer B, which is the building product manufacturer. So the way Trezi is shaped, it first addresses the pain points of the architects and the designers out there.
Okay.
Then it starts to connect, evolve itself into a platform wherein it kind of starts inviting building product manufacturers to start listing their products on the Trezi platform. And beyond that, it goes into supporting various other stakeholders in the industry.
Planning, architects, the builders, the contractors, and the consumers later in terms of realization?
Yes, absolutely. So if the building product manufacturers are listing their products on the platform, which they've started doing, early signs of that has already started emerging.
Okay.
So the end customer will be able to buy off the platform too. So that will obviously be a part of the journey, but still early days. I think from the validation that one has received from the architectural design fraternity, moving to the building product manufacturer community now, I think that is going to keep us busy for the next 3 years.
Certainly. Thank you, Gautam. Clive, sorry for having to make you wait.
It's okay.
How are you, Clive, this morning?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Great.
And you?
Really well. Really well. Apart from a little bit of internet issues and all that, but I'm fine. We had good tea this morning, Clive.
That's good.
Great. So, Clive, you're from Manufacturing
Technology
Center, UK.
Yeah.
So, Immersive Tech came after for you. Yeah, I think early 2014 or 13, similar to when we encountered the technology. So, how was the initial journey? What value did you see in it, and what were the first few products that you launched?
So, my background is product development, and before we set up the Manufacturing Technology Center, I was working in the automotive sector, and we were using virtual reality for styling, for looking at fit and finish of various components as far back as sort of 2005.
Wow.
And when I came to the Manufacturing Technology Center in 2010, the thought of virtual reality in a manufacturing environment, how could we use it? And we started to think about, how do you plan a factory? Is there a way that we can use virtual reality to improve the way we plan factories for the future? And we picked up a couple of projects in our virtual reality center. One where we refocused the way the building had been designed in the first place, and it took a year out of the program in the build program, because it allowed us to have a factory that actually was more fit for purpose than it would have been.
Okay.
We then looked at a factory for a submarine engine. When we started to look at that, we found that the as-designed factory actually wasn't fit for purpose. So when we did the redesign of that using virtual reality, we actually saved over £1 million in the build of the factory.
Just
but
because the teams could visualize it
because
accurately.
they could visualize it. And then the real breakthrough for us was we did a project for an electronics company, and we put the design that the architect had put together into our virtual reality facility, and we had the engineering director who was going to be responsible for this factory in the virtual reality center.
Okay.
He spent 3 days, and at the end of 3 days he threw the drawings away and started again, because it was completely not valid. So we then started to look at, how can we take that a step further? And we took it further by being able to bring tools into the virtual reality environment that allowed us to look at, when we're assembling things, how easy was it to assemble? Could we improve the assembly process through virtual reality? And that became a real tool for us going forward, before we started to move on to augmented reality.
So, may I assume this was training in terms of
training people to be able to use the tools better and improve the process.
Certainly.
And then we started to move on to augmented reality. And then we started to see a step change in what we were able to do.
Okay.
I still haven't got used to people doing this around the factory all day,
Yeah.
but we've got to the point where we can build a factory where we can codify that process, and we can fully automate that through augmented reality, with intelligent automation, with artificial intelligence into the robotic systems, so that when we have a problem, instead of having to send a highly qualified man to the factory, we can actually have an untrained person go into the factory with the augmented reality glasses, and from the control room in whatever country, we can tell that man exactly what task to do.
Certainly.
We can watch him doing it. We can superimpose through the glasses in front of him onto the component that he needs to use, how he can, what bolt to undo,
Remote assistance,
what filter to change,
Okay.
what pipe to bend or move. All of a sudden, it is absolutely game changing for us. So we're now into the process of designing factories that are, we call it factory in a box. So we take 40-foot containers that we bolt together to the configuration that we need. We then put the factory inside, fully codify the process, and then ship the factory to wherever we need it in the world. And that allows us to manage that directly from our control center.
And with 100% consistency. Correct? Because
100%. I would say we get in there.
Certainly.
Yeah, 100% is a real achievement, and we're probably at 99%. But we get in there.
No, like defining a process and assisting remotely ensures the human error is minimized, right?
We take out the human error. That's the key.
And we're also able to track, measure.
We can track. We can measure. We use data becomes all encompassing for us in our processes, and data drives our business. So right now, I would say that 50% of our engineers are digital engineers.
Yes. Okay.
Not mechanical or electrical or electronic engineers. They're digital engineers now.
I understand. Yeah, I was saying earlier, it's not analog and digital anymore. It's just everything is digital.
Everything's digital.
Yeah.
And without digital, we probably wouldn't be able to run the business anymore.
Yeah, I understand. Clive, thank you for that. Great. To conclude this session, we have discussed several examples of marketing, advertising, real estate, manufacturing as a sector, actually supplying or serving many industries, from automotive to oil and gas to pretty much everything, right, Clive? We thought it would be nice to take you through a simple example, a live experience of a demo of one of our solutions. This was made for agriculture, for farmer education, as a marketing tool, as also an education tool to change the habits of a farmer. We thought it will be a good example because it also impresses upon the fact that mixed reality as a technology may not work just with the evolved and the educated consumer, but also as a simple person, as a farmer who's not well acquainted with technology. The advantage of mixed reality is the use of human-machine interface, which ensures that the human need not learn a computer language, but a computer can understand the human being just through body tracking and gestures. Would somebody like to volunteer for the experience? Is that the kiosk over there? Is that what? Okay. Hi. It's right here? Okay. Hello, hi, I'm Vishal. Yourself?
I'm Ramesh.
Ram Shriram.
No, I'm Ramesh.
Great. May I have a mic, please? Hi. You as well. How are you? Great.
I'm Ramaswamy. I'm Managing Director of KKM Software Limited, Chennai.
Ramsamy, welcome. And yourself?
Hey, I'm
Okay.
Andy. I work at the High Commission.
Okay, hi Andy. Welcome, you may watch. Ramswamy, so this is the kiosk. We just have a sensor that detects yourself and starts the experience. Can you brief me through it?
Yeah, so you just need to mention your name, email address, and the mobile number. And once we'll submit, the game will start, and you will experience the whole farming thing.
Why don't you do it for him? For the software, to identify you and welcome, the bridge between the real world and the software, just a simple form that you enter your details and you say start and it starts.
Is developed by this
This was developed by Wowsome. Yeah? By Wowsome,
Indian-based company?
yes. specialize in mixed reality for marketing. And the product was made for DuPont.
DuPont.
Yes. Begin. I can't hear the voice though, but it comes from. You see yourself, yeah, in a world of mixed reality.
As many insects you can. Just point and grab. Raise your right hand to start the game.
Raise your right. And your left.
Use both hands.
Grab to kill insect.
You
Just do
need to
this.
point and grab. Yeah. You need to kill the insect.
Other insecticides effect lasts for 10 days only.
Yeah, like this.
Currently use chemical effect. Ready to try DuPont Excellent. It's 45th day. BPH infestation starts on 45th day. Be first. Be strong. Be confident. Excellent. It is that's what you wanted. It's 45th day. Excellent. Farmer. Ahead of the world. Pose with your result for a photo.
Ramaswamy, could you share your experience? So
Even the layman, usually the farmers or laggards, they are that is unable to adopt the new technology. Actually, this it's kind of a game, but they understand the real benefit of the using
True.
this.
they learn a farming practice, and it feels like you're part of an advertisement, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for volunteering.
Thank you.
All right. Great. We do have a few minutes for Q&A, please. Could we have two volunteers with the mics, with the audience, so that the experts can share the last part of the conversation? Questions? Quickly, your name and industry, please, and then the question.
My name is Amit. I'm the founder of Zest IoT working in aviation. So AR and VR and mixed reality, while it's a great concept and a very great technology, there's still significant amount of barriers in terms of adoption. Especially, let's say, with respect to headsets or gadgets, they are not comfortable to wear for a long duration of time. So like this, what do you see from the perspective of barriers to adopt this technology for transformation for future?
Certainly. Headsets, I agree. We have, we were talking earlier about how we have to make content for a medium, and each medium has its purpose and environment that it works in. You see how here with the tracking sensor you can detect the body. We don't have to learn any language or wear a device. Yeah, a lot of our applications work through mobile phones and tablets, where you can see through the phone and have a mixed reality experience. So though we feel, I personally think, like you're saying, headsets is an entry barrier. Today we have large penetration through other devices. For example, Arnav's app, the Blipar app, should be about 10 million or 15 million users, Arnav? 65 million users. So if you give something in a mobile phone, that is easy entry. We have seen extreme penetration even today. Yeah, and as the world progresses, as technology improves, new devices and new content will come into place. Thank you. You're welcome.
My name is Ajay Mutreja. I've been working with more than 5,000 startups around the world.
Wow, Ajay.
I'm very impressed with what I heard from Arnav. Have you ever tried looking at your technology of immersing used for social impact? For example, the biggest problem in India is education. You cannot get the real impact till you have immersive technology. So I've been using AR and VR, but does not help. So can you elaborate on how we can impact lifestyle skills, how we can impact even simple education imparted to students?
I think we have been doing a lot of work on education as well. Can you hear me? Okay. I think we have been working on whole host of education-led initiatives. See, one large part of barrier that we see is so we've got the technology, right? We've created an ecosystem where people can come in and contribute and create content, right? But I think the large challenge that we face is co-creation of content, right? So we have gone to Tata Institute of Social Sciences, for example. We have gone to a lot of schools. We've gone to a lot of colleges, right? What we have gone to them and said, hey, we will give you the technology for free, right? All you need to give us is access to your systems, and we can also kind of create content which creates an opportunity for people to learn in a more different way. And the idea of keeping it free was basically to kind of create scale, right? But the point is, what we have figured is that a lot of schools and colleges, right, where we went, they started using that entire process commercially for students as well, right? So that is one barrier that we faced, right? And the challenge was that, hey, if you are making money, right, then it's a different conversation altogether, right? But the point is, I think AR and VR has got a lot of whole host of opportunities, and I see there are a lot of players that are working together, especially in areas like tourism, right? In areas like basic education of understanding healthcare, right? We went to Anganwadis. We went to Anganwadis, and we have just kind of given them access to devices and created content. But I think one barrier that we're facing with devices also is that to scale up education in AR VR is not about the tech that we have, it's about localization of content, right? Because I think though visual drives a lot of cognition for us, and I think one of the things that we focused on is that words are not enough, right? And 99.9% of what we understand is what we see. So we focused a lot on visualization, right? But I think the challenges that we have faced is how do we localize content, right? We have used a lot of AI, natural language processing, to convert a lot of digitized, a lot of kind of analog, archaic content into digital content as well. But I think there are not enough openness, right? Not enough structured content that is available, right? So I think the ecosystem has to come together to create that opportunity, right? And just to let you know, there have been a lot of startups, right, in India specifically, who has been focusing on specific educational opportunities. For example, there has been great content, great system that has been created on AR, VR, right, and AI also, for blind students, right? So on touch and feel, so on voice assisted AR. So if you point your camera at something, it's going to see the camera, it's going to see the object, understand, and actually tell back that, hey, you know, this is a glass of this is a bottle of water, right?
That is
so,
real education at the
so
ground
that,
level.
that's fantastic to kind of, this is a great example use case that has been built. So there have been a lot of work happening, but there are some basic barriers that we're trying to kind of, you know, remove, and also perception, because I think the moment you walk into a school or a college, right, the bigger challenge we face is connectivity, right? And also it's not commercially feasible. We have tried this, but commercially feasible to walk into any school and give away free tablets, right, to everybody, right? So what we've done is we've said, you know, if you're investing in digitization of content, or if you're telling students to kind of, you know, if you're creating computer labs which are government funded, right, why don't you then devote some resources or devote some part of your human resources? We are here to train them. We'll give them technology for free. But the idea is that, you know, the challenges that we've seen is that once you leave, right, that's where it stops, right? So that needs to be taken. So somebody needs to be kind of well motivated enough to kind of take the step ahead. I think that's where.
Use the right language and we convert.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Gautam, so visualization, how do you see in education as well?
I have a point. Again, the nature of education is what really kind of defines where you take the technology. You know, like for instance, in our case, because it's such a focused solution for the architectural education, we see adoption in the architectural institutes to be far more quicker than anything else out there. You know, so professionals are still taking time because they have to spend the money on it. When we go to architectural colleges and design institutes, we usually come back with a commitment that they want to change the way architects are being trained using VR. You know, so I think the expansion of this whole base and focus will also be required, just like it's been in the case of businesses. It will be required in the case of education as well. So where all will this technology go? By the way, I have not faced a barrier around the devices at all. The architects and the engineers find it far more easier to work with those devices because of the challenges the current set of tools present to them. You know, so designing or understanding design of a computer-based screen or of a drawing is so challenging right now that once they immerse themselves in a virtual environment, it becomes far more easier to kind of solve the problem. Just the point that Clive was making, you know, when his team took to virtual reality as a solution, the level of understanding just went up there and the errors reduced. You know, so for us in particular in the architectural education side of things, the adoption has been far more easier than adoption by the professionals.
Thank you very much for that opinion, Gautam. Great. Thank you all for session one. It's been a really interactive session. So from visualization, what Immersive Tech allows us to do, grab attention and visualize information, as most of our examples have described. Let's move into the other two technologies that complete this convergence, artificial intelligence and machine learning, which ensure that we associate and memorize as well to complete the cycle of our mindset. Gautam and Clive, thank you very much for this session. Please join the conversation for the latter session, session 2. And Jay, welcome. Picture, sure. Thank you. Can you please take out the headphones and take the picture? Really. Arnav, you're here on session 2 as well. Thank you, please. Jay Lakhani, welcome. Thanks. Jay runs Visualytics AI. He's come from the UK. And Kostas, welcome Kostas to the session. Kostas is from Nesta, the data researcher, specializing in machine learning. Welcome. Yes, yes, yes. Can you play that video? I will with session 2. Session 2. We begin artificial intelligence and machine learning. Is it on a crash course? Yeah. Is there a bomb going to blow, or are they on a course where they're going to unite and create more value together? Do they complement each other? Are they distinct? Are they different stories? I'm looking forward to this conversation with experts on the panel. So Jay, artificial intelligence, yeah? May I call Visualytics primarily an AI company and in the healthcare space? Could you tell us how you discovered the story and what are your core products and services?
Sure. So, hi everyone. Thanks for having me here. Thanks, Vishal. So, Visualytics is an artificial intelligence company based in London that's focused on ophthalmology. So, we're looking at blinding eye disease, which affects around 700 million people around the world. The story is in some way similar to one we heard earlier. I was working in investment banking for JP Morgan, went out for lunch with a friend of mine who's an ophthalmic surgeon, and he said, you know, geez, I'm seeing so many patients I don't need to see. And worse, we know that people are at home at the moment going blind, and they have no idea they're going blind. So is there any way, you think, in the future, and at the time I think he meant through finance, through additional funding, getting more doctors and all that, is there any way we can get more people who are going blind at home to, you know, make their way to hospital? And is there a way to stop doctors having to spend unnecessary time seeing patients they don't need to see? And it was pretty clear that the main problem is that there are far too few doctors, or far too few specialists, and the knowledge and the know-how they have can't be used in a primary screening setting. So that's where AI is massively valuable.
It saves time. Yeah.
Well, the main the main value add of AI in healthcare is you can take a specialist level of accuracy of decision making, especially when it comes to reading things like fundus exams, which is part of ophthalmology, or breast cancer screening, or radiology, or cardiac examples. You can take that level of know-how, typically learnt by the doctor over.
Go ahead.
Typically learnt by the doctor over a period of 20, 30 years, and you can teach an algorithm to perform to a similar standard, and then you can deploy that know-how on a chip, and you can distribute that chip either through cloud or locally into primary screening settings in villages, towns, etc.
So it's like cloning doctors, making a factory of 100,000 doctors and putting it on the cloud in a way.
Yeah, it's about extracting the know-how of the doctor and replicating that. So in a way, it's democratizing the knowledge that typically people have to pay $500,000 to learn, and saying, well, let's give that away.
Absolutely. And with predictable consistency.
Well, exactly. Interestingly, the performance of an ophthalmologist over an 8-hour shift starts with a 95% accuracy level in diagnosis of a pretty clear-cut case of diabetic retinopathy, for example, and it tails off as they get tired, as they have to repeat the task over and over again, as they get more rushed and as appointments get squeezed.
Yes.
Whereas obviously an AI algorithm just remains at whatever level it's trained to be.
None of those things matter
exactly
in the digital world. And the learning part of it, Jay, the machine learning. Could you impress on that? How much of this is AI and how much of this is machine learning?
That's a great point. I guess there are components of each, and there's a very blended and confused line between the two in some ways. So we have a few different components of machine learning that are important in our case. So there's classifying images as either healthy or unhealthy, and then there's a segmentation piece where I'll show some slides later where you take an image and you say, these are the areas of interest, and pass those images back to a doctor and say, can you have a look at those images? And they use different parts of machine learning and AI, as it were.
Pegasus, is it? It is the Pegasus.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this is an example of if you look through someone's pupil into the back of their eye, this is the image you'll see. So this looks like an orange disc. This is called your fundus, and there you have your optic nerve, and your macula and your retina. So from here we can diagnose the major blinding eye diseases that affect around 700 million people around the world.
But just looking at images?
But just by looking at the images. If you go to the next slide, that will probably show the best example. So when it comes up, I'll show you. Yep, so here is our machine learning algorithm looking at the optic disc. So in this particular case, this patient is likely to be suffering from a condition such as glaucoma. In that example there, that green area that we've highlighted is the area that the doctor needs to concentrate on and look at. that's been done at a level of accuracy validated by Harvard University to be better than their two best specialists at diagnosing glaucoma. So what we're saying to you is, or what we're saying to the world is, if you'd like to be seen by a Harvard-level professional in glaucoma, you can ask this for 10 rupees, or you can fly to America and ask them for however much that costs. And we want to see this. I mean, people were talking earlier about the altruistic element of what we're doing here and the social impact. This is already deployed in 125 low and middle income countries, and the aim is to prevent blinding eye disease. And we're going to catch these people early, because we know if you wait for a patient to go blind and turn up to a hospital and say, hi, I can't really see very well, you've missed it by 30 years or maybe 20 years. It's way too late.
I agree. Thank you, Jeff, for
most
sharing.
welcome.
Costas, so Nesta, you're different from us, not a commercial organization, but research.
Yeah, Nesta is all about social impact. We're a charity, we're UK's innovation foundation, and basically our mission is to bring novel ideas and help them solve societal impact challenges and problems. And we do this either by providing funding or trading opportunities to organizations and individuals, or by doing research. And with our research, we're trying to steer the policy debate on important issues around health, education, innovation, and more. And I'm working as a data scientist in a team called Innovation Mapping. And the goal of this team is to, I would say that we work in the intersection of machine learning, economics, and policy making. And we basically collect official data, open and web data, and we're using machine learning in order to, if we can go to the next slide. We're using machine learning in order to either answer specific policy questions, like where and how innovation happens, which are the organizations that innovate, and which are the gaps, let's say, in an ecosystem. But we also use these technologies in order to create tools for policymakers to take evidence-based decisions. And then what we try to do is to democratize this knowledge, either by publishing reports or by publishing interactive data visualizations.
So it's open source?
Yeah, everything is open source. Our code is open source, visualizations, our data as well, everything.
We thank you for your service.
You're welcome. In the next slide I have some examples of how we use machine learning. So the first one is, policymakers in the UK, and specifically Innovate UK, had a question, a really important one. What's the size of the immersive economy in the UK? So we used a combination of different data sources, and in this particular example, we had a list of more or less every website of an immersive company in the UK, and we ran a survey with some of them in order to understand the size of the sector, their turnover, how many people they employ, how they look the sector, what are the prospects of it. And then we used the responses and trained a machine learning model in order to extrapolate their answers for the rest of the the rest of the population. So this is for a policy question. The next example is a tool that we're creating for some policymakers in the US, and it's basically a search engine that sits on top of all the data that I mentioned before, and the user can query it with text, like artificial intelligence in health, and then get the relevant subject back. And we're currently working on ways of visualizing this subset of data by creating maps, trends, and even more. And actually, I have some examples of where we have used data visualization in order to democratize this knowledge. So the first example is a project that we did for the Welsh government, where we basically, if we go to the next slide, where we basically drew the collaboration network of Welsh organizations in publicly funded research projects. And the user can basically select specific organizations and see how they are connected with other ones. But also this acts as a front end for a recommendation engine that we built for them.
Earlier in the morning when we were talking, you said we approached ML first. Unlike most of us, mixed reality came first, and then AI and ML we used to enhance the value of mixed reality. But in your case, how is this different? Yeah, so one of the limitations of this visualization and also the next one is that even though they provide a very nice overview and they provide tons of interactivity and the user can actually learn something from exploring them, they are a bit complex in many cases, and they have a learning curve.
So we're thinking about using virtual reality in order to reduce this complexity. And we believe that we can do this because the user will have a much wider room to interact in, because the visualization, because we add an extra dimension, so basically we'll be in a 3D, and also the sense of presence and the awareness that VR offers is, we believe that it's quite important in basically exploring the data much faster and in a more intuitive way.
Certainly. Thank you, Kostas.
You're welcome.
And Arnav, so your journey, obviously when you're talking about visualization of your surroundings, interacting with things, initially it's just computer vision identification, right? But then, at least in my case, when we encountered AI and ML, that's when you felt, that the real promise is delivered. It's personalized, it's interactive. Yeah. How was your journey in discovering these two technologies?
I think we started with AR. And when we started integrating the entire conversation on visual search, I think we decided that if we need to index the physical world around us, right, it needs to be, it cannot be done on your own. So we started curating, started indexing key categories like automotive and flowers and some key categories, because to create an entire visual discovery engine, it was pretty much not only ML but also DL, right? So and I think largely what we did was we wanted to create an engine which was which end of the day we wanted to create a system where if you want to know something around you, right, you pick up that image and put it on the system, and system will keep on learning and identifying a chair that is the chair and a white chair, right? And machine needs to continually needs to be trained.
Right? With that video reference.
So this is a video that kind of talks about the different kind of work that we have been doing and improving on it, right? As we go along.
It's a learning process.
It's a learning process, And I think, and that's true about us as well as humans as well as machines, right? The moment you and it's about the way your child grows, and I think the machine learning and training is slightly different, right? When we started programming and versus the learning that we've been doing right now, right? So when your kids grow up, right, you don't tell your kid that hey, that's an animal. You say hey, that's a elephant, that's a lion. That's the way.
And also parts of it.
Exactly. I mean that's how machines are getting training, and it's kind of replicating how your neural networks in your brain and replicating that entire thought process into a machine. But obviously, we have been trying to kind of keep a fine balance between creating the visual impact through AR and AI.
Yeah, it is the interface. It can't be intrusive. It has to add value. It has to be easy and fun and immersive.
Exactly. And you cannot build all yourself. It needs to be, you need to create a process where, it needs to be user generated a lot because we can create a machine to train a certain part of an object, right? But unless you pick up your phone, you open the camera and say point it to any random things, you're not recognized, right? You have to. So user generation is a huge play in creating and indexing the world around us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is the beauty of these technologies. Yes, Kostas.
Yeah, so I have a question for the rest of the panel. We discussed about AI, we discussed about VR and AR, and I was wondering, apart from the data generation, what do you think that the role of humans is in developing and using these technologies?
Well, I think the first thing is, for us, it's very important to use specialists to train the algorithms in the first place. So there's a sort of old adage, I guess, in machine learning, which is junk in, junk out. So if you don't put quality of training data in, you're not going to get a quality diagnosis in our case. I think the second thing that's quite important is the actual user experience and the workflow. So from a human perspective of what's the role that's played, I think specifically in our field we need to be guided quite strongly about where do people want to see the technology used. So in healthcare, it's been very clear for companies that have been successful to date that screening, triage, etc. is where people want this to be used.
Absolutely.
But I suspect we're going to be guided by doctors once that's adopted as to where is the next best place. And so
I agree.
I think it needs to be a balance between AI can't be intuitive, right? So and that's something that cannot be replicated or taught, right? So even for preventive healthcare of what Jay was talking about, right? There is a certain role that algos can play for even preventive healthcare, right? For example, we have been trying to work around, with partners, trying to see that how can you predict cancer, right? It's a huge opportunity area. Can you get into a DNA level conversation with an algorithm and say, hey, with certain attributes, if you tick those boxes, right, you might have a opportunity where you can diagnose, but the intuitive diagnosis needs to come from not from machines. It needs to come from humans. So I think that fine balance between intuition and technology, what that can do, I think that's where I'm not a believer of singularity. Doesn't want to happen.
Certainly not.
Right.
The variables that you can see and that you can't, always.
Obviously,
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what make AI and ML, so interesting, so true to how we think and how we live our real lives. Really. Awesome. Thank you so much for this conversation. We have a last few minutes, so what we'll do is ensure we demo the experience, the live experience for AI and ML, which is the simplest form of AI and ML, recognizing a person's face, facial recognition. And when you add machine learning to it, it can identify a specific person. So recognition is face and gender. And when you add ML to it, actually it can be trained to identify a particular person. I think the demo we have is trained to identify Shweta and myself. But we have a volunteer there. And what do you see? It's a very simple program. We just built it to show you an example. So I think you see, I can't read this here. Gender male, 20 and 38 age range. Yeah. Yes.
That's what China is doing already.
Where are they doing it? I don't know. In airports, malls?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Security, crowd analytics.
Crowd analytics, everywhere.
Yeah.
China is kind of massive. If you want to live in China, then you are tracked.
Certainly. It's the fine line between privacy.
Privacy,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's-
I think a great use case of facial recognition is Aadhaar card. Right.
Wow.
You see a lot of missing persons report in social media. So if you can use facial recognition, obviously controlled, government-regulated devices where not everybody accessible to everybody, but if you can just point at somebody and say, hey, who's this, where, and you can immediately identify. Because India has the largest child trafficking cases in the world.
Wow. Several applications, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Last couple of questions maybe. We have 2 minutes. We'd love to include the audience in the conversation. Anyone?
Hello, my
Hi.
name is Ankur Suman. I'm the CTO of Neural Pathways LLP. As we know that AI and ML both employ algorithms, so how deep or how massive you can say impact is of a better algorithm and less hopping networks?
Kaustubh, would you?
Sorry, could you please repeat the question, the last part of the question? How big is?
How deep of an impact does better algorithms and less hopping networks have on AI and ML?
So basically the deep learning and current state of the art of techniques, how basically they impact the field.
I think you said better algorithms, yeah, something like that. Well, better code is always better, but
Yeah, I would say that the current wave, let's say, of deep learning methods that requires lots of data and also quite a lot of computing as well, especially some of the latest methods, you probably have to burn a rainforest with GPUs to actually train them. I would say that they're very powerful and really good, but for very narrow tasks. So if you want to detect, let's say, an eye disease, or if you detect specific objects, yeah, probably this is the way to go. But if you interact with policymakers or with people that value more interpretability, let's say, or they value more simpler algorithms that can actually be explained with layman's terms, then probably using other models or supplementing deep neural networks with them could be a nice option, and this is basically what we do.
Yeah, I think if I was given the option tomorrow, do you want to hire one more machine learning engineer, or do you want to hire somebody who's going to deal with the execution or the software engineering side of things, I think I'd be leaning towards software engineering side of things. I think the algorithms converge to an accuracy level or a quality level that is perhaps rate limiting anyway. So, for example, in screening, you have an acceptable false positive negative rate, you accept it and you move on. I think the companies that are really successful in their spaces absolutely nail the execution of those algorithms and make it really, really easy, quick for those algorithms to perform their tasks, and they fit neatly in the workflow. I mean, Flipper is a great example. So
I think fundamentally you have to address two questions. Is it goal-based or rule-based? That depends on the complexity of your algorithms.
Certainly. Thank you all for sharing. And it was a lovely conversation. I hope this wasn't too weird. We enjoyed it. The beginning was a little weird, but I think we understand the convergence of immersive tech, artificial intelligence and machine learning. We already applied it to add value to our lives and to our customers' lives, to our stakeholders' lives. And I hope you all understand that this is inevitable. You will encounter these technologies, and you either understand it and be prepared and ensure you gain or take full value from DC technologies. And and the future is as soon as now, and ensure you actuate your future. Thank you very much. You have the web link where you can still access the complete transcript of this event, post the event. Good luck and enjoy your day. Thank you.